This is Markin Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Follow on Twitter. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Marking Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Brennan likes fisting. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. We're marking out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans.
Welcome to Markin Out, Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. This is episode 6. No, why do I keep on doing that? 703. Make sure you check us out, markinout.com. Go check out all of our podcasts over at Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you may be listening to your podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating to go along with that 5-star splash. Leave a review. Buy a t-shirt over at prowrestlingtees.com/markinout. Give us a like over on Facebook. You can check us out over on Instagram at markinout11 and also on Twitter and over on TikTok at markinout. But you can follow me, Dave the Rave, on all social media platforms at David PTDPT. You can follow Chris at Chris Sweendog over on Twitter and CM Sweeney85 on Instagram. You know him, you love him. Some days you want to be him. You can go follow Brandon on all social media platforms at BTTG161. Brandon, how are you?
I am doing awesome as always. I did not really do much this week, but you have quite the tale.
So. You bet I do.
So how was your week?
Bet I do. My week was busy bee. Action all day, all night. I actually went to Kansas City. And had the American Physical Therapy Association Leadership Congress. I attended that because I'm an APTA Leadership Scholar for this year. I was accepted to that program, so they invited me to go to join them for this. And while there, they also had the first ever Women's Leadership Summit, which I attended, which was incredible. One of the PTs is a general in the Army that spoke, and then another keynote speaker was the former president of Nike, and so on and so forth. Very educational, so much to learn, so much to take away. And then also attended the APTA House of Delegates, which is pretty much the Congress for physical therapy in the field. Every state has a different group of delegates. It depends on how large the state, depends on...
I think you're describing Congress right now.
Exactly, pretty much describing Congress. The amount of people in the state determines how many delegates you have per state. Everybody meets and goes into a large room, and they vote on action or lack of action. They try not to debate each other. And it's very interesting, very interesting. Who knows, maybe I will run for a spot on the New York delegation at some point. But overall, it was so awesome. I did end up getting Kansas City ribs, which I guess they still said it was St. Louis ribs. But I have to say, it was definitely... the only place I was able to get it because... I wasn't able to while attending the Congress, but they had it at the airport, and it was way overpriced, of course.
How much?
It was like $35 and change, I think.
For half?
For three?
For
three pieces of brisket barbecued.
Oh.
And 3 ribs barbecued on 2 Texas toasts with a side of macaroni and cheese.
I don't know if that's
I
don't know if that's overpriced or not.
For the quantity,
it just sounds like
overpriced.
That sounds like normal barbecue spot, though.
No, the one that I got at, where did I go?
St. Louis.
The place that I went there, Pappy's. That was definitely not that expensive. And you got a lot more. So I'm thinking that maybe it was just because it was an airport, but it was OG Bandits. I don't know.
Putting them on blast.
It didn't seem. Huh?
I said putting them on blast.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't really smother the spare ribs or the brisket in anything. They had barbecue sauce on the side that you can take in a bunch of containers. But I feel like there was still...
you messed up.
Still to be desired.
You messed up. You went to the airport.
Yeah. Well, when you're lack of time and stuff, you don't have that many options. And when I was going to go get stuff, every place, because of the Congress and everything taking place, a lot of the places were fully booked to capacity. So really slim pickings.
It's funny, not really funny, but also kind of funny that you were in the same boat as many pro wrestlers this week.
Oh, yes. So on Friday, flying out of LaGuardia, it was wild. I got to the airport like 6... What time did I get there? 4:30, about 5 a.m. I got there, I think. I got there pretty early because my flight was leaving, I think, at 7 a.m. So I got to the airport, and the baggage area where you check in and get your luggage ticket and stuff like that, like a few of the screens were totally blue with the restart sign, the Microsoft, the
blue
the
screen of death.
Yeah, the blue screens of death. And I was like, all right. So I went to another one that was working, and I noticed that there was a large line, and I kept on hearing people saying like their flights were canceled and this and that. And I saw a lot of people on the agent line, and luckily not as many on the baggage check-in line. So I was like, okay, this is pretty abnormal, but whatever. So then I get through, and then I go upstairs, and I get through security. If you are not TSA pre-check, definitely get it.
Mm-hmm.
I got through, and then as we were going down the escalator, I was going down the escalator, I noticed that all of the advertisement signs were blue screens of death. Like like when you're going down the escalator, there's these two large advertising screens on both sides of you. Both of them screens of death.
You were lucky though. You were lucky that your flight got out at least. What was it, like a 2-hour delay?
Yeah, I was delayed by. I was actually only delayed by maybe an hour or two. Because we took off at like 8 and change, I think. So it was really only delayed by like an hour or two. Actually, because I think my flight was at 6 a.m. or something, so probably like 2 hours it was delayed. But at least they reassured me that it was going to be taken off at 8 a.m. So I was like, okay, let's see what happens. It was weird because like I was going to get Starbucks, but even the Starbucks machines were down, and they were only taking if you bought through their app. Or if you had cash.
Something you don't know is that I was also affected by that outage.
Tell me.
Cheesecake Factory, you weren't able to pay, even on Sunday, you weren't able to pay with gift cards. They had because of the outage.
Way.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
Well,
did you wash dishes?
No, paid with cash. But like nobody even said beforehand, like there should have been, I think
that's on them.
I feel like there should have been a sign on the door that said, hey, our gimmicks are out because of this thing going around the world.
Yeah, yeah, if you didn't have the cash on you, I don't think that you're obligated to pay.
Yeah.
Because that should have been on them. But yeah, so finally boarded and everything, and I landed in good old Kansas City. My friend that I was meeting, she got delayed by like her first flight was at, I think it was like 6 a.m. It was a little bit before mine, actually. And hers got totally canceled. She was flying with some other PTs, and hers totally got canceled, where they had to reroute to another place and then stayed there. And then they got to that place, and then it got delayed by like 2 hours. And it just kept on getting delayed. But then I know that even with that being said, even though she was delayed by like 5 or 6 hours, something like that, there's so many others that got delayed by like days.
Yeah, I would have been furious. I would have been so pissed off with that whole experience. I know. Especially because you had to, first of all, be there at like 4 a.m. or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I got my Uber at like 4:30.
I would have been losing my cool 100%. And most likely it would have been too hot in the airport, and I would have been even more pissed off.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. The blue screen, I feel like we should be incorporating the blue screen into the pick of the week somehow. But, yeah. I mean, at that early in the morning, I was like, you know what? Forget this. What am I going to, I'm not, if I get pissed off, what am I really going to achieve besides me venting my frustration and emotions at people who it's out of their hands? If I complain to Delta, what are they going to do?
I wouldn't have complained or yelled to anybody that works at the airport. I would have just been maybe verbally upset by myself.
I don't know. Even then, I was like, the most frustrating thing was I couldn't figure out how to work the Starbucks app.
Yeah, well,
that was the most frustrating thing. I couldn't figure out how to add money onto my account. I'm like, just use my credit card, put it in there or something, and I just couldn't figure it out. I'm like, forget this. I'll just go to like Poppy's Bagels or something like that and buy coffee. So I went to there and got coffee and a bagel. So, but yeah, it was eventful. And then, of course, as you can see on the reel that I posted on my Instagram at DavidPTDPT, I ran across another blue screen of death, and I was like, no. But I did get home. Next trip is going to be, let's see, I think I may end up going to Chicago very soon, potentially next weekend.
Next weekend? Wow.
Maybe, yeah, very potentially.
You gonna blow any kisses in Chicago?
I may. This time I go, I definitely. So it's my friend's birthday, and it's actually Dr. Singh's birthday. So we are going to go there to celebrate and stuff like that. And I was like, I have to go, but I think I have to get a hot dog while I'm there. I did not get a Chicago dog when I was in Chicago last time.
Did you get pizza the last time?
I did get pizza.
Thin crust deep dish?
Wasn't a fan. Deep dish.
So you got to get thin crust.
Yeah, I think I'll get thin crust because deep dish is not all the rave.
That's not what That's not what Chicagoans call pizza there. Even they don't consider that their main pizza.
What's their main pizza?
It's the thin crust, which is on every I think Pizza Hut commercial now, where they like threaten Pizza Hut for putting America onto that, even though I don't think it was Pizza Hut who did that.
That's interesting. That's kind of funny. I have to look that up a little bit.
But yeah, if I was going to Chicago, I would 100% try deep dish. I would 100% try thin crust, and I would 100% try hot dog. Even though I don't like mustard on my hot dog or mustard in general. But
Chicago is beautiful.
Why do you keep saying Chicago?
We went there. Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago. So last time we went to Chicago, it was really a beautiful place. I love how the trains are. I love how they have like the river cutting through the entire landscape of the skyscrapers and everything. The architecture is so beautiful. The river walk is incredible. The Bean. It's a bean. We have one in New York City. It's a bean.
Empire State Building talks trash about that thing all the time.
That's hilarious.
Also, I've never been to Chicago, but I know there's a famous cheesecake place, Eli's Cheesecake, out there. So I don't know if you'd want to maybe try that. There's also the Garrett's popcorn. It's like half cheddar and half caramel popcorn.
I feel like I saw that somewhere, and it definitely didn't sound like something I was interested in.
It is so good. My mom brought it back one time from Chicago. It's so good.
All right, I'm going to have to see what I can find. But, yeah. So, that was really just my week. But let's talk about some pro wrestling talk and talk about some Monday Night Raw, kicking off with Gunther. Oh, okay. Yeah,
I figured I might as well try for it. But yeah, so Gunther kicked off Monday Night Raw, and he tried to bring up what he said about Damian Priest last week, and literally just kept getting booed as if he was Dominic. He double downed on and included the people of the arena as well, calling them all bums. And then he called Damian Priest out for him to just come out and hand over the title to him, which Damian Priest came out and ends up clocking Gunther. It led to a fight. I didn't like that they cut to commercial during that fight, but they came back and Jackie Redmond tried to get an interview with Gunther, but Damian Priest quickly attacked him and they kept going. So maybe I didn't really hate that commercial break so much.
Yeah, I did like it, but I didn't like that break that they took.
But the fact that they came back and they ended up still brawling after that, maybe it wasn't such a bad cut.
True. That's very true. I definitely think that it was entertaining. I like how Priest was able to knock down Gunther at one point. I'm invested in their matchup, but I really think Gunther's going to come out as the winner.
I don't know. I'm having big doubts with that because he could very easily just have it somehow get it again at Bash in Berlin.
True. Very true.
After that, we saw Braun Breaker pick up the victory over Ilya Dragunov via ref stoppage to become number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. I think Braun Breaker dropping Ilya Dragunov abdomen first onto the ring post was pretty dope. I don't feel like we see that often, or if at all.
Yeah.
But Ilya Dragunov went for an H-bomb off the apron. Braun Breaker instead rocks him with a spear, and I guess he hit his head and it knocked him out. I have to assume that wasn't an actual like ref stoppage sort of thing there.
Yeah, I would assume that this was not planted. This was planned, a planned stoppage, and then to just show how strong Braun Breaker is. But I don't like it. I personally don't. I guess, like, honestly, there's no really other way to go about it unless there's an interference.
Yeah, I think it protects Dragunov in that sense.
Right? Like, I mean, that's the thing. Dragunov can't be pinned right now. Breaker can't lose, obviously.
Right.
The only thing that you can have is Sami Zayn attack Braun Breaker for an interference. Which
I don't think that would make sense, but
it could have been a count out, Braun Breaker.
I don't know. Ultimately, I think if Braun Breaker is the one winning at SummerSlam, I think we instantly have, like, oh, you didn't actually beat me. The referee stopped the match. And then we have Ilya Dragunov challenging Braun Breaker, perhaps as his first opponent if he wins that Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
But we saw Sami Zayn later on interviewed, and he spoke about Braun Breaker. There was commotion, which he ran to, and we saw the Judgment Day jumped Jey Uso, and then he helped Jey out, and they left, and we'll put a pin in that.
Yeah. Next up, you had Sonya Deville pick up the victory over Lyra Valkyria.
We saw Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark get involved, which led to Katana Chance and Kaden Carter getting involved. Which Sonya Deville...
I'm finding it hard from...
Deville knocked Katana Chance off the apron. And based off that distraction, she ends up getting that win. Which she definitely
Sometimes I have trouble getting into anything like with Lyra Valkyria.
Well, I don't know. This match, I don't know. It wasn't like completely off. There was that one spot where Sonya was holding on to her. And she's like, let go for that powerbomb spot.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Yeah. I didn't see that part.
So it's not like, I don't think this was like the greatest match.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of like super messy with all that outside interference. Or involvement, I should say. But Sonya Deville definitely needed a victory there. We saw a videotape from Nikki Cross air this time, which was much shorter than the other videotapes have been. But this was more horror-based?
Yeah, this one was definitely a bit more creepy.
Like, I mean, that scream at the end was very unsettling and unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's much different from any other one that we've seen because this was not an interview.
Right.
This was more so Uncle Howdy talking directly to Nikki Cross without Nikki Cross even responding as Nikki Cross. I am curious to see where this plays out with the fact how Nikki Cross had those moments of her staring out into the space. Like when she got eliminated, I think even in the Royal Rumble. I don't remember if it was a Battle Royal or the Royal Rumble itself, where she was just staring out into space and got...
For weeks, she was just walking in the background.
Exactly, yeah, even in the background. So I hope that that comes into play at some point.
I mean, there was also when she was doing the stuff with the way.
Yeah.
Where it didn't really seem like they wanted her, but she was being creepy.
Yeah.
So we'll put a pin in that Wyatt 6 as well. We had CM Punk come out, say he's cleared, and he called Drew McIntyre out to fight, and McIntyre's like, nah, I'm good. I'm good on fighting here. And CM Punk tried to go after him, but he was held back. And then Adam Pearce showed up and said, the match is set for SummerSlam. That's why McIntyre's not going after you. Because if either of you lay a finger on one another before the match is going to be called off. And whoever throws that first punch, suspended indefinitely. And Adam Pearce said that he has a big problem, a referee problem. But while he was saying that, I thought that line was so weird. And then Seth Rollins' music hit, and he was announced as the guest referee for that match. So it's not a triple threat. Seth Rollins is the referee.
Yeah. It seemed premature when they hit his cell phone, though, right?
Cell phone?
Cell phone.
Theme song?
Theme song.
I just think that line was weird.
What was the line?
He was saying, like, I have a big problem, I have a referee problem, but while he was saying referee problem, you hear Seth's music hit.
That's when
It was a weird setup.
Yeah, it sounded like... It was a weird setup. I don't know, maybe it was rushed because of time, but I definitely noticed that too.
Yeah, so Seth Rollins, he has beef with both people. I don't know what the outcome of this is. I'm sure somewhere in the history books we've seen it similar before with Brett and Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? After that, we saw the Final Testament pick up the victory over Xavier Woods and Alpha Academy. Otis, I think, was the most over in this match. Mm-hmm. Which, not to say Xavier Woods and Akira Tozawa were not, but Otis, I think, was getting pop after pop. But
fans, he's still over with them.
Yeah, and Karrion Kross put Xavier Woods down, which I think would have been expected. Which leads to a one-on-one match between Karrion Kross and Xavier Woods next week. And after this segment, we had Chad Gable and the Creeds come out. They Gable ran Otis down for losing. And he brought up the Wyatt Six and said the Alpha Academy should come back to him. And they were still firm no. So the Creed brothers attacked Otis and Akira Tozawa.
Yeah.
Kind of unexpected. Otis had a little comeback there, but they beat Otis down. And then the power went out. The fans popped big time for that as well. And the Creeds were
still so over.
Yeah, and the Creeds were waiting there with chairs, looking a bit nervous. Chad Gable was alone in the ring, and Uncle Howdy showed up behind him, hit him with Sister Abigail. And I think with that moment right there, we'll see that the Wyatt Six will translate just fine in the ring.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they will translate very well in the ring. I'm a big fan of what took place. I don't know if it was a fan or Uncle Howdy, but like when he turned around, he was just like, or no, before he turned around, he said like, "There you are." I don't know if that was a fan.
That. I don't remember that. I don't know.
I kind of feel like it was Bo Dallas saying, "There you are," and then that's when Chad Gable turned around, and then he looked at him, and then he hit him with the Sister Abigail.
I feel like the natural progression would be a 6-man tag there, but I don't know. I can't see that being on SummerSlam. That's like coming up really quick. That's already next week.
Yeah, I agree.
After that, we had Bronson Reed versus Pete Dunne not happen because Sheamus showed up right before the match began, and he took Pete Dunne out with a knee. And then he and Bronson Reed got into it. Pete Dunne went to hit Sheamus, but Sheamus hit him instead. And then Sheamus went for the bro kick on Pete Dunne, but Dunne ducked out. And Bronson Reed got hit with that bro kick instead. And then Sheamus was interviewed later on, and he laid out a challenge to Pete Dunne. So we're going to see Sheamus versus Pete Dunne. I don't know what's going to be the outcome of that. It seems like Pete Dunne should be the one going over Sheamus there, but
I don't know. It's tough to say because Sheamus just returned too.
I think Pete Dunne is going to end up being the victor via disqualification because how do you? I mean, you have to include Bronson Reed there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they'll have a kickoff show match or anything, but I could easily see that being a triple threat.
That's a lot. I could see that being a triple threat. You know, he did hit the knee again too.
Yeah,
on Pete Dunne,
but he also hit the bro kick. So
he did.
The knee is on purpose.
Right after
the knee's on purpose.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that it was on purpose now.
Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio went to the ring, where Rhea Ripley called Liv Morgan out, and she showed up in the crowd and said that she has feelings for Dominic, and Dominic has feelings for her. And Rhea Ripley went to go after Liv Morgan, but Dominic wouldn't let her. He stopped her, and Liv said that she wants to hear Dominic say those 3 words. And he got super heated. He goes, "You want those 3 words? I hate you." And Liv Morgan cried, and Rhea Ripley, like a bushwhacker from a different country, licked Dominic.
And what do you think about the crowd with all of that? Their reaction to that?
I think they're getting worked just like Rhea Ripley's getting worked.
I actually agree with you. So it's funny that you say that. I actually think that it's going to be a work as well. I think that Dirty Dom is actually with Liv Morgan.
Dirty Dom is actually Dirty Dom. It's going to be one of those Trish Stratus situations with Chris Jericho and Christian at WrestleMania 20.
It could be Dirty Dom with Liv Morgan and then Rhea Ripley with Damian Priest. I don't know where Balor fits in, though, because Balor seems to be buddy-buddy with Liv Morgan.
Balor, yeah, I mean, they have history. She was in the OC, kind of.
The Bullet Club. Yeah.
That's
the thing. I don't know
I'm pretty sure SummerSlam is the end of the Judgment Day, as we know it.
I feel like it, too. Do you think that we're going to get Balor with Liv Morgan and Dom with Rhea? Maybe it is legit?
What do you mean, Dom with Rhea?
So, let's say Dirty Dom doesn't actually turn on Rhea Ripley.
I don't know.
But then I
think Dominic is going to be costing Rhea Ripley the rematch. So Liv Morgan stays champion. Finn Balor, JD McDonough still champions. Dominic Mysterio and Carlito all in Judgment Day. The only 2 that aren't Judgment Day are Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley.
Would Dirty Dom be out of Judgment Day too with his allegiance? I mean,
I just said it'll be all of them with Liv Morgan. The only 2 that wouldn't be
I feel like
in
Dirty Dom would be out of Judgment Day though.
No, he's going to be with Liv. There's no way he's not.
All right, I guess it's one way to keep it going, and I'm enjoying everything that Carlito's doing too. It's like one of those things you have to watch and pay attention to see what he does next.
Yeah.
Very entertaining.
After that, Zelina Vega was interviewed where she had her whole arm wrapped up due to what happened last week, and she said that she's not going to let that stop her. And then she went on to defeat Zoe Stark, but I really don't understand how this match happened when Zelina's arm was all taped up in a brace and everything. I guess we've seen people wrestle in braces before, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I'm like torn on this match because given that she had that arm completely taped up and in a brace, I felt like given how long this lasted, it made Zelina Vega look strong, but at the same time kind of makes Zoe Stark look weak. A little bit.
I could understand where you're coming from. I don't know if it made... I don't see Zoe Stark as being viewed as weak over it, though. Especially because she was all braced up and everything and was able to utilize it sort of like a la Lex Luger-ish, minus it being a metal plate.
But that's what I'm saying, though. She's like supposed to be kind of like a machine. And here, someone who's got a one use of an arm, basically. She couldn't get it done.
True.
Sonya Deville, though, caused distraction, and Shayna Baszler tripped Zelina Vega. That led to Lyra Valkyria, Kaden Carter, and Katana Chance taking them out. Zelina Vega uses that brace, elbows Zoe Stark in the face, and hit the code red to pick up that victory. And outside of that interaction, we saw Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Sonya Deville put the Unholy Union on notice, which I'll talk more about.
Yeah.
The main event of Monday Night Raw saw Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, the Bloodline, defeat the Judgment Day, which I thought this was nice. I thought it was cool to see the Bloodline team up again. It's been quite a while. Can I call them that? I feel like I can.
Yeah, why not?
Dominic in this match caused distraction, which Carlito took advantage of. The Bloodline had a comeback, though, and Carlito got involved again to turn the table. I liked Sami Zayn and Jey Uso hitting that 1D. I don't know when Jimmy's going to be ready to come back, but it seems like there has to be some sort of conversation there with Jimmy and Jay. With everything that went down with Jimmy after the fact.
Yeah, and I feel like at some point this is going to definitely lead into the Bloodline aspect.
I thought you were going to say War Games.
I don't know if I want to see War Games with all of them.
How could you not?
I mean, I guess we're bound to.
Dude, Roman...
I don't know, because we had it. Dude, we had it the other year.
But it's not the same thing. This is Bullet Club. Bloodline versus Bloodline. This would be Roman, Jimmy, Jay, Sammy versus Solo, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, and Jacob Fatu. And then maybe by some chance, he's not on the roster yet, Hikuleu shows up. Maybe that's how the new Bloodline defeat Roman Reigns' Bloodline. I don't know. But and if Hikuleu does show up and they're doing a War Games match, he has to show up like did Big Show show up through the ring at St. Valentine's Day Massacre? I feel like that's how he debuted, and then he threw Stone Cold through the cage. Well, not through the cage, but onto the cage, and the cage broke, and that's how Steve won. So I feel like
It's
if
possible.
Hikuleu does end up in that scenario, he's got to come up through the ring.
Yeah, it's very possible.
But eventually, Sami Zayn hit that haluva kick on JD McDonough, and Jey Uso hit the Uso splash to pick up the victory there. And after the match, Jey Uso celebrating on the turnbuckle, not seeing what's in the ring. Braun Breaker spears the absolute heck out of Sami Zayn.
Yeah, that was a nasty spear, too.
So, I would not be opposed to if Braun Breaker beats Sami Zayn for that Intercontinental Championship. The next challenger for the tag team, but for the tag team championships, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Sami and Jay hold those titles.
Mm-hmm.
But that is Monday Night Raw. Moving over to NXT, which opened with Trick Williams. He pulled up, left his car door open for some reason, and just headed right into the Performance Center. He got stopped by Cedric Alexander, who questioned him. And I guess Cedric had been giving him advice or whatever, or trying to. And Trick was like, I just want my title. I want Ethan Page. He headed out to the ring. He called Ethan Page out. Instead, it was Cedric who came out to talk to him. And then Ashanti the Adonis showed up to talk to Cedric. Trick questioned him, and Ashanti's like, I'm there to pick up the ball that you dropped. And Trick he shot back. He's like, brother, you didn't even have the ball. And he hit him with a hit row, which I thought was kind of funny. And then Cedric ended up yelling at Trick about making a mistake, about mistaking his kindness for weakness. And then Trick punched Ashanti the Adonis. That sets up a lot on NXT this week.
Yeah, that was pretty much the baseline.
Like later on, we saw Oro Mensah pick up the victory over Ashanti the Adonis, which Ashanti is still trying to impress Jakara. But this was, I think, like the first time in a year that we've seen Ashanti actually wrestle. We've seen him in I think it was like a Battle Royal or something. Something recently-ish, but it's been quite a long time since we've seen him. No, I don't think so. I just think, because Cedric, for the most part, too. The last time we saw Cedric, he got torn apart by Braun Breaker, I think. So it's nice to see Ashanti back on TV wrestling, but no way in hell was he winning. Like, no way should he have won. But especially if Oro's being built up to face Ethan Page, probably. And throughout the night, Ethan Page was going mad over that count from Oro Mensah last week. And he even went to a referee. He goes, that didn't count, right? And the ref was like, well, an official didn't count it, so nothing happened, which is like kind of goofy because, like, it wasn't a real match.
Yeah, but I think that it's a cool thing because, like, we never see anybody actually, like, be upset or angry or go back to that 3 count that wasn't a 3 count before. Or at least not to my knowledge.
It's possible, but yeah, so he's going crazy over it. Oro Mensah ends up running down, and the referee actually counted this time. So I thought that was pretty funny to add to that. Because now there was an official that made that count. But to close the show, Ethan Page told Ava that he wants Oro Mensah. He'll even put his championship on the line. So that sets up a contract signing next week for Great American Bash Part 1. And then the championship match for Great American Bash Part 2. Outside of that picture, even later on, Trick Williams picked up the victory over Cedric Alexander. Just like Ashanti, it was nice to see Cedric back. And it was nice to see Cedric wrestling like this. It's been so long since we've seen something like this from Cedric. Where it actually looked like he could get the victory here over Trick Williams.
Yeah, there were definitely moments where it seemed like it. I like how Cedric Alexander inserted himself into this too.
I mean, I don't know if he did, though. I feel like Trick went to him for advice, so...
True.
I don't know if he was inserting himself. It was more, he's not listening to the advice.
Uh-huh.
I like the STO that Cedric did on the apron. And obviously I would have liked for Cedric to win this, because he was the one trying to give Trick the advice, and Trick wasn't listening to it, but... Because now that Trick won, it shows that he doesn't need to listen to anyone's advice.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else who he tried to get advice from, Pete Dunne, who wasn't having any of it. Pete Dunne showed up and beat Trick down after the match. So I'm sure we'll see that probably next week.
Mm-hmm.
After that, Brooks Jensen picked up the victory over Josh Briggs in a street fight, which started during Josh Briggs' entrance. And they beat the heck out of each other in this. There was a picture.
And I'm a fan that it started right at the entrance, because I feel like when it's a street fight, that's exactly when it should be starting.
I feel like a match should never not start in the ring, though, depending on what it is.
Did they? All right, so I didn't catch it. Did they actually start the? Did they actually do a bell to start the match?
I don't remember.
Because otherwise, I would agree with you and debate it. I always want a ring bell to start the match.
Right. Well, I mean, sometimes a match like that does have the ring bell that starts the match, but it makes no sense.
Uh-huh.
But, this was brutal. That picture, I think, of Josh Briggs after the match was crazy. But Sean Spears showed up and distracted Josh Briggs, which led to Brooks Jensen winning, which I was expecting Josh Briggs to beat Brooks, like, down big time. Like, to the point where it would be like he would stop because he didn't want to be the one beating Brooks down. He didn't want the match in the first place. So I thought that's what we were going to see, but it was Sean Spears helping Brooks to win, and then afterwards he put his hand on Brooks' shoulder and smiled. So I don't know if there's going to be some sort of alliance there. Maybe Sean Spears will show him
there could be
the
an
way.
Alliance at some point.
It seems like Sean's trying to like go around and show people the way, so
yeah,
maybe that's what that'll be.
Definitely possible.
After that, Eddie Thorpe picked up the victory over
Lexis King.
Okay.
I thought the match was okay, but Lexis King, what do you think about it? I think that I want to see Lexis King make some more progression. Instead, I feel like they're doing a slow build with Lexis King.
Well, so, I mean, this match started off, I thought this was a good match, and they started off hot. But I think it was Eddie Thorpe that needed that victory. And he did it by reversing Lexis King's finisher. So even though Lexis King can go out there and do everything that he does to like poke at Eddie Thorpe is still showing that he's dominant enough to get the victory over him.
Yeah.
But after the match, Lexis King attacked him and smashed his hand in the steel steps with the cane. We just saw Eddie Thorpe return. What's going to happen? Does that take him off? What's going to happen to him?
I don't know, but that cane, a lot of symbolism with that cane with his dad.
Not that character-wise, not that he would care, but
yeah. Next up, you had Ren Sinclair pick up the victory over Carly Bright. Carly Bright is not on the winning side of things often.
No. At first, I mean, you gotta do something there. But I think the main the meat and potatoes of this was actually everything that led up to this, because she threatened Charlie Dempsey. Ren Sinclair threatened him about not losing her match, and the D'Angelo family all found it funny that Charlie Dempsey's being blackmailed over this, and Charlie Dempsey, at one point, he ends up putting Ren Sinclair's foot on the rope to break the count. And in the end, he held her to get the leverage there to win. Mm-hmm. And she was super happy to get that win. Charlie Dempsey was definitely not happy to be blackmailed there.
No.
So I think we'll see her blackmail her way into No Quarter Catch Crew. And I think we'll see more out of that. So I think I said it the other week. I'm happy that we're seeing more of Ren Sinclair. Carly Bright can be like, she can take these losses right now. Mm-hmm. Because she's not going to be the one being built up right now. We saw Thea Hale interviewed. It was like a sit-down interview where she said that she thinks she's grown enough where Chase U can trust her to make her own decisions by herself. And she said that Ridge Holland gives her the power to be by herself, I guess. And she said she's trying to win the championship for Chase U, and she's focused on winning it next week at the Great American Bash. I would say her chances at winning the championship are 0%.
Close to it.
No offense to Thea Hale,
but
I wish she had already won the championship. But
even still, Thea Hale has so much to offer.
100%.
I mean, so young and still so much to learn, you know?
Yeah. But
I definitely think future is bright. But next up, you had the
Roxanne
metaphor.
Perez was pissed off that she didn't have a sit-down interview of her own. So it adds to the match, but I don't see Thea Hale defeating Roxanne Perez.
I don't either, but I don't see Roxanne Perez carrying the championship much longer either. So, but I don't think now's the time. Next up, you had the Metaphor pick up the victory over Sol Ruka and Carmen Petrovic.
Earlier in the night, we saw Lola Vice, Carmen Petrovic, and Sol Ruka talking backstage. They were watching Stephanie Vicor versus Isla Dawn from the live event, which I thought was very interesting. There's another woman that's rumored to have been signed, Delta, who's insane in the ring.
I saw a picture of that. I'm not familiar with her though.
Well, between the three of them, Delta, Stephanie Vicor, and Julia, I don't know where that's going to lead to with Roxanne Perez.
It's only a matter of time.
But in that segment, they also spoke about, in regards to Isla Dawn, the Unholy Union and whether or not they've defended the championships. And they mentioned coming to NXT to defend the titles. Metaphor interrupted. And it sets up this match, which I thought, first of all, I thought it was cool that they were watching Stephanie Vicor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they could easily not include her on television at all, but not only is she getting mentioned on NXT, she's being shown footage, actual footage being shown on NXT. She's being mentioned on Monday Night Raw. So I think that's really cool the way that they're handling her signing. As far as this match goes, I thought this was good. I liked Lash Legend kicking Sol Ruka when she was midair. I forget what move she was going for, but I thought that was good. The worst part of this match for me was the officiating, because the ref wasn't really counting illegal partners in the ring. And I wasn't expecting Metaphor to be the ones winning this match. But it makes sense because they called out the Unholy Union afterwards, and we're going to see that match on the Great American Bash. Which is kind of ironic that Isla Dawn and Alba Fire are going back to NXT as champions. The last time that they were on NXT, if I'm not mistaken, well, actually, no, I think they've been there since then. But as champions, they fought the Horsewomen and lost in a unification match to Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. So I think it's kind of ironic that they'll be back as champions. And obviously I think they're going to retain the championships. So
I can see. Next up, you had Joe Hendry.
Yeah, they had a video package of Joe Hendry, which was cool that they did this. And he spoke about being a wrestler for 11 years. He spoke about putting time into wrestling and social media and getting his name out there. And he announced that next week at the Great American Bash, he'll be performing live. For the first time ever, obviously in a WWE capacity, he's gone viral all over the place for doing his live concerts.
Yeah, he's known for doing his concerts at
indie shows,
the old
TNA.
Like events and stuff like that when he was on the scene.
Yeah, but
who knows? Who knows who he's going to call out?
Well, the thing is here, Gallus was annoyed by this. He flyered all the cars outside of wherever the bus stop is for the performance center.
And he autographed them.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that they were all autographed. But Gallus was annoyed here, so I have to assume that they're going to be the subject of the song that he'll perform. But I also would love to see Josh Alexander interrupt him. Josh Alexander who should have been in WWE at some point,
I thought for sure I lost you.
He eliminated Joe Hendry from the 6-way elimination match, which Dolph Ziggler went on to win the championship at Slammiversary. And everybody thought that Joe Hendry was maybe walking out as the TNA champion. So if they continue this crossover, I could see that being a potential person being there to interrupt the concert. But I still think it'll be Gallus. Unless it could lead to an 8-man tag too. Where the subjects of the live concert will be Gallus, but Josh Alexander shows up and they all 4 of them try to beat down Joe Hendry. Maybe the Rascals make the save or something. I don't know.
It's possible.
But speaking of the Rascals.
It's possible.
Earlier in the night, Axiom and Nathan Fraser were speaking with the Rascals. Trey Miguel brought up how MSK never lost the titles. And Wesley was like, oh, well, maybe that could happen someday. They agreed to a 6-man tag. And then Axiom told Nathan Fraser that he's in the next Speed tournament. And they argued about that because Nathan was like, bro, you said that it's a distraction for me. Why are you in this? So I thought that was funny. But the main event, we saw the Rascals pick up the victory over Axiom, Nathan Fraser, and Javon Evans, who agreed to team up with the tag team champions. We saw at Slammiversary, the Rascals beat No Quarter Catch Crew, so you were right, and I did not expect that match would be added.
I did like how they had the backstage footage of the Rascals with HBK.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
But yeah, this was a fun match to see in NXT this week. I hope that this partnership with TNA continues for years.
Yeah.
The speed of this match was fun. The high-flying aspects of this match was entertaining. And at the end of the match, Zachary Wentz ends up pinning Axiom. So I do think we will see Axiom and Nathan Fraser defend the titles eventually against MSK.
And I see Fraser and Axiom losing it.
That I don't see.
I definitely see them losing at some point soon.
I'm trying not to say who I would think.
Why not?
Well, I mean, there's those rumors out there. There were rumors that Motor City Machine Guns were 100% signing with AEW. And then all of a sudden, it came out saying it looks like they're likely going to be signing with WWE.
True.
So,
very true.
If Motor City Machine Guns are showing up in WWE, as much as I wouldn't mind seeing them on the main roster, and as much as they're completely ready, obviously, to be on the main roster, I think it would be awesome to see them win the NXT Tag Team Championships.
I agree. I think it would be really awesome.
So, we'll see what happens with that. That's NXT. Moving over to SmackDown. It opened up with Nick Aldis telling Tonga Loa that he's not able to compete because he's injured. He injured his eye last week. And Tama Tonga said that they're not going to forfeit. And then Solo Sikoa reiterated the same exact thing and said that Jacob Fatu will be in it. I'll put a pin there. First match saw LA Knight pick up the victory over Santos Escobar. LA Knight cut a promo on Escobar and Logan Paul while walking to the ring. I thought that was cool. And they had good back and forth. Elektra Lopez slapped LA Knight behind the referee's back, but the big kicker here, Logan Paul showed up, tried to pull a Hugh Jackman and knock LA Knight out behind the referee's back, but LA Knight went on to win. After that, Logan Paul jumped him right away. Santos Escobar joined in, and then the two of them stomped LA Knight out, and Logan Paul hit him with the frog splash to end that segment. After that, Naomi was interviewed, and she was asked about Blair Davenport and what she did last week. Naomi said she was confused as to why she came after her, but she's going to make her respect her. And then Bianca Belair and Jade showed up and agreed with Naomi. And then they said they were going to go call out the champions, so they went to the ring. They called out the champions, and the champions show up. They attacked them from behind, but Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill came out on top there. They get a rematch. I don't know when it is, though. After that, the Bloodline won a gauntlet match to become number 1 contenders. It opened up with Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews against Los Lotharios. I didn't think Los Lotharios were going to move on in this, but I was hoping that they would. But at the same time, not against Baron Corbin, and they didn't. After that, the Street Profits were out. Terrence Crawford spoke to the Street Profits and B-Fab earlier in the night. I thought he was going to come into play in that match, but that wasn't the case. Apollo Crews did that launching Baron Corbin spot again over the top rope, which I think is always an awesome spot to see. And this was very entertaining. Montez Ford and Apollo Crews at one point both did stereo dives to the outside to each other's opponents, obviously. In the end, though, the Street Profits hit the Revelation and picked up that win. The Street Profits went on to defeat Pretty Deadly, who tried to steal the victory like right away, but Dawkins got out of that pin, and I thought it was going to be over much quicker than it was, and I'm glad that Pretty Deadly wasn't a one-sided match there for the one-sided victory for the Street Profits, because I was hoping that we'd see more of Pretty Deadly. I also really enjoyed the end of this match where Elton Prince was up on that Doomsday Blockbuster, tried his hardest to get out of that. I feel like we don't normally see people like punching and struggling to try to get off of their shoulders, Dawkins' shoulders during that spot. But the OC was out next. I would have liked to have seen the OC go on just to see the OC versus the Bloodline. But I think it was like writing on the wall that the Street Profits would go on to win that. And then in that final match, obviously, the Bloodline picked up the victory over the Street Profits. Solo got involved behind the referee's back. That's become like an every match sort of thing. But in the end, Jacob Fatu came at the Street Profits like a beast and just took them down. After that, we were supposed to see an interview from Cody Rhodes, but A-Town Down Under interrupted and hijacked the show, I guess you could say. And they called out Terrence Crawford to apologize to them for what he did last week in helping Cody Rhodes with that steel chair, and Grayson Waller threatened him with Austin Theory, and Austin Theory wasn't really having that, but Crawford, it was too late. Crawford knocked him out. So that, again, just adds to that seemingly split coming soon between Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. We did see the Cody Rhodes interview after that, and I like that he mentioned he's in Japan and taking the championship all over the world like he said he would. And he spoke about what the new Bloodline has been doing and how his allies, that being Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, they were destroyed trying to fight by his side, and he had to see it. So I'm assuming maybe at SummerSlam, he's by himself. Maybe at SummerSlam, Jimmy Uso is the person that shows up to help Cody. And Cody challenged Solo Sikoa to meet him in the ring next week, one-on-one. So we'll probably see that, but maybe we'll see the other members of the Bloodline show up as well. Backstage, Andrade was interviewed, and Carmelo Hayes interrupted. It sets up another match between the two of them. But I popped at Andrade comparing Carmelo to Bronny James instead of LeBron James because, I mean, if you follow the internet, obviously if you follow basketball, you're well aware of it. But if you follow the internet, you see that he's not living up to his namesake, I guess. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then in the main event, Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax picked up the victory over Mia Yim and the champion Bayley. Earlier, Nia Jax told Tiffany Stratton that she'll be getting her a new briefcase after what Bayley did to it. So when that debuts, we don't know. And then as far as the actual match, Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax attacked Mia Yim during her entrance. For the actual match, though, Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax controlled a majority of this. And I really thought that Bayley and Mia Yim would get the win here. But in the end, it was Tiffany Stratton who knocked Bayley out with the Money in the Bank briefcase. And Nia Jax was able to hit that Annihilator on Bayley to pick up the victory, just to really, I guess, further that match to SummerSlam. And then to close SmackDown, you had Solo Sikoa threaten Cody Rhodes, saying he'll show up next week. And he also mentioned that Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga will win the tag team championships from DIY next week. And he called out Roman Reigns, and he said if Roman wants to show up and help Cody, he could watch him just like Randy. He could turn out just like Randy and Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, and then he should acknowledge him. So that was SmackDown. Moving over to a quick little break, and I'll be right back here on Markin Out.
Hey, it's Billy West, and you're listening to Markin Out.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Markin Out episode 703. Moving to AEW Rampage from last week, the Conglomeration picked up the victory over the Undisputed Kingdom. I liked seeing Kyle O'Reilly versus Roderick Strong the most from this match. I don't think this match did anything for Roderick Strong's Ring of Honor Championship match, but Don Callis and Kyle Fletcher came out to attack Orange Cassidy. Mark Briscoe took Kyle Fletcher out. Roddy took Mark out. This didn't do anything to set up Blood and Guts either, but on Collision, we saw Roderick Strong pick up the victory over Ishii. This was just like what I spoke about last week. I don't think we need those back-to-back matches from the same people, back-to-back nights. But the Kingdom got involved, and they distracted Ishii. Roddy was able to low blow him, get the victory. They went to continue the attack, but the Conglomeration ran down. And I think if they're a team, I don't know, why wouldn't you be out there? You know how the Kingdom's MO, what their MO is? So that didn't make sense to me. We saw the Learning Tree pick up the victory over the Outrunners. This was one of the most indie wrestling matches I've ever seen in AEW. Because the Outrunners are straight up comedy. And they spent a majority of this match doing an actual handicap match in the ring, 1-on-2 versus Big Bill. Which is fine. It's not a bad thing to have indie wrestling, but for TV, it's just like an odd choice. But Jericho tagged himself in, or got tagged in at the very end of this match to get that victory. And then Suzuki interrupted Chris Jericho's celebration to come out for his match to, I guess, try and show Chris Jericho up. They have that match for Dynamite. Minoru Suzuki picked up the victory over the Butcher, which was a pretty standard Minoru Suzuki match as far as the whole like no selling goes. And the match really wasn't anything much. And the next match, we saw Chris Statlander pick up the victory over Sidney Winnell. Statlander had this match won pretty quickly. Sidney has had like the smallest amount of offense, which rightfully so. And then Statlander, I feel like this match went too long. I feel like she should have ran right through her. But the main event saw the Lucha Bros pick up the victory of Private Party. There were some messy parts, but overall this was enjoyable. And really the biggest thing that took away from this was the terrible officiating. For AEW Collision, we no longer have Elton John as the theme song. It's a new entrance video, a new theme song. I don't like the new theme song. I feel like it's as if like AI wrote like, hey, give me a wrestling theme song. It's just kind of plain, but the show itself, they're doing it from the esports stadium, which is like a super small video game place. I think it looks nice. I know a lot of people are complaining or saying it's embarrassing, but it is what it is. I think it looks fine for TV. First match saw Darby Allin pick up the victory over Black Taurus, which is just what you would have expected. Darby's going into Blood and Guts. I want to see Black Taurus winning matches, though. I don't need to see Darby Allin winning week after week after week. And this could have easily been a completely one-sided match, but in favor of Darby, obviously. But Black Taurus, thankfully, it was not one-sided. After the match, Darby spoke about the Elite to hype up Blood and Guts. He challenged Jungle Jack for the TNT Championship at All In, which Jack Perry is like a firm 100% no at. But Hikaru Shida after that picked up the victory over Sky Blue via ref stoppage. Hikaru Shida dove out onto Sky Blue and she immediately started to clutch her leg. So that was very unfortunate. I don't know if they said it was a broken ankle or something, but that's very unfortunate. She literally just came back and now she's out injured again. And then Hikaru Shida cut a promo afterwards challenging Britt Baker to a match on Dynamite. Super fired up. I had higher hopes for Hikaru Shida coming back. I'll put a pin in that. Ray Fenix after that picked up the victory over Tony Nese. Tony Nese cut a promo beforehand, basically trashing the crowd. And I wish he got the victory here, but there was no way Fenix was losing that match. Fenix did mess up at one point. Tony Nese jumped right on it, so I thought that was good for Tony Nese. Even though it wasn't meant to happen, I think Nese was able to not freeze up and actually have the match continue, and it looked good. There was outside interference, which Fenix was able to overcome multiple times. And overall, I enjoyed this match. I thought it was good. I just would have liked to see, like I said, Tony Nese get that victory. After that, FTR came out and they spoke about making the save for Tommy Billington against the Don Callis family. They pivoted to Cash talking about what he's been going through this past year. And then Dax brought up the Young Bucks and said that they'll be on the road back to the tag team titles. And it ends at Wembley where they're going to win the tag team titles. Right now, it seems like the next people who should be challenging for those titles are the Acclaim, but it'll probably be FTR. We saw Hologram make his debut against Gringo Loco, which they've been airing vignettes for this new character for a few weeks. Everyone thought it was going to be Ricochet, which clearly, if you watch the very first vignette, it's not Ricochet at all. He was previously Aramis in Mexico, but I think he's a fun wrestler. AEW is really filled with people who do the exact same moves as him, though. And with the roster being so full, I don't know what the end game of Hologram is or where he'll fit in anywhere else. I thought it was a good debut match for him, but he's not going to be world champion. And like I said, you have maybe 6 or 7 other people on that roster already who are doing the same exact move. So it'll be interesting to see where Hologram goes next, what they're doing with him. After that, Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs had a promo backstage. I think Dustin Rhodes introduced them as a trios team, but I'm not 100% sure on that. He made it seem like they didn't just team up in February. They were like, oh, this is the first time since 88 or something, that a Von Erich and a Rhodes were on the same team, but they teamed this year, so that was confusing. I guess we'll see what happens from that. We saw Deonna Purrazzo pick up the victory over Thunder Rosa in a lumberjack match. You had Rachel Ellering, Abaddon, Lady Frost, Taya Valkyrie, Marina Shafir. A bunch of others were lumberjacks. A lot of this match just felt basic. I think the biggest spot of this match was Deonna Purrazzo superplexing Thunder Rosa onto the lumberjacks outside. We saw later on Thunder Rosa speared Deonna Purrazzo off the apron onto all the wrestlers, which they eventually brawled outside, which distracted the referee. Taya Valkyrie slipped Deonna Purrazzo a turnbuckle, which she was able to use against Thunder Rosa and get that victory. It seems like perhaps we'll see Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie form some sort of alliance together, and I'm definitely not opposed to that because it gets both of them on, well, I don't want to say it gets both of them on TV, but hopefully it gets both of them on TV. And then in the main event of Collision, you saw the Patriarchy pick up the victory over the Bang Bang Scissor Gang to become the new Trios champions, which I just think all of that is dumb that they stripped them, and I hated that. But I think the writing was on the wall when they stripped the champions that obviously Christian's going to become champion. The referee spot at the end I thought was just so bad because he tried to get into position before Christian was ready, so he just looked like George the Animal Steel walking around until Christian grabbed him and held him down under his arm while Shayna Wayne sprayed Juice Robinson with hairspray. I just thought it was so goofy that, I mean, even the referee allowing to hold Christian like that or the referee allowing Christian to hold him like that was just goofy. And now it's come out that Luchasaurus might be injured from that match. So they stripped Juice Robinson, they stripped Jay White because he was injured. And now Luchasaurus or Killswitch might be injured. What are they going to do with the titles? Moving over to AEW Dynamite, Blood and Guts. MJF kicked it off where he spoke about Will Ospreay. I thought a majority of this promo was just like really bad. But the main thing to mention was that he changed the International Championship to the American Championship. He threw that title in the garbage. And then Will Ospreay, who had his tire busted, showed up, and it sets up a match at All In. I was very confused at the beginning of Dynamite where Will Ospreay was. It didn't look like a hotel. It literally looked like the arena. So I don't know where he was that he needed to speed off to get to the arena. But it sets up, like I said, All In. MJF versus Will Ospreay for the International Championship, not the American Championship. Also, I think that's kind of stupid that they're going to have this design for literally a month. I don't see Will Ospreay winning against MJF. I mean, I don't see MJF winning against Will Ospreay. After that, Chris Jericho picked up the victory over Minoru Suzuki to retain the FTW Championship. They did like a full, 3 minutes, 4 minutes of chops. They cut to commercial break. They came back. They were still doing chops. I did not like this match. The Learning Tree attacked Minoru Suzuki afterwards, and Shibata made the save. I'm sure it'll set up a tag match somewhere. We saw Bryan Danielson interviewed from earlier in the day where his neck is apparently messed up, but the doctor said it's fixable. But Double J approached him and said that he was crushed that he was not able to move forward in the Owen Hart tournament, but he's proud of Bryan Danielson. He was proud to hold his arm up and present him the title and the cup. And he knows what Swerve knows what he needs to do to retain the championship. So Double J said to Bryan that he needs him to go all in. At All In. We saw Britt Baker pick up the victory over Hikaru Shida. Obviously, Hikaru Shida was losing this match, but I still thought this was a good match. I could have done without them doing most of the stuff outside. Like, I'm fine with Hikaru Shida doing her knee outside the ring, but most of the stuff I don't think was necessary. The main thing to take away from this was Mercedes showing up after the match, said no to All In, to Britt Baker's challenge for All In, and then Camille finally showed up. She's been signed for months, apparently. And she finally makes her re-debut, I guess you can call it. Takes Britt Baker out. She looked like a beast. Essentially looking like Diesel for Mercedes. I don't know if this was the right episode of Dynamite to do that on. But yeah, finally she's here, so I'm looking forward to that. We had Pac pick up the victory over Boulder. I feel like for this match, they could have honestly done like a quick gauntlet match for the Iron Savages to just have Pac like run through them. Because why just have Boulder? I feel like you could have worked up to Boulder. But whatever. After that, Mariah May picked up the victory over Caitlin Alexis. Essentially a squash match against a nobody for AEW TV at least. Mariah May, I've been saying this every time she gets into a match like this, should be well beyond this point already. And she always somehow winds up facing people who nobody knows. And I don't understand that. But the big takeaway from this was Toni Storm showing up in plain clothes afterwards. They brawled. Toni Storm yelled something that I could not understand, but it just furthers their match at All In. So I think that was fine. We saw the main event, Team AEW pick up the victory over the Elite in Blood and Guts. The Elite got the advantage by flipping a double-sided coin, which the referee didn't even check out. Looked goofy as hell. Team AEW later on argued, which I feel like is like writing on the wall almost, that they were going to overcome that and win. Dean Malenko narrated a video recap of everything, which I thought was really good. But the match itself started with Jack Perry and Darby Allin. They brawled in the crowd. Nick Jackson was out next. He brought out a briefcase of some sort. Mark Briscoe was after that. Matt Jackson, who also had a briefcase. Anthony Bowens, he at one point stabbed the absolute hell out of Jungle Boy with actual scissors. And then we saw Okada was out next. Literally took everybody out of the street sign, which I thought was stupid. Because at that point, Team AEW had the advantage of people who were up and like ready to fight. And one by one, they got clocked by a street sign, and that was that. Max Caster was out after that. The Elite in the match end up using barbed wire boards. They used thumbtacks. Hangman was supposed to be out next, and which he wasn't there earlier in the day. And his music hit. He didn't show up. Swerve showed up when his music hit, and Hangman ends up taking him out from behind with a chair. He cuffed Swerve to the cage outside. The match could not begin unless Swerve was inside the cage, typically. But Matt Jackson yelled at Hangman and said that if he doesn't get in the ring, then he's fired. So he gets in, and Matt Jackson abuses his power, makes the referee ring the bell. The match starts. Double J comes out. Brandon Cutler tries to stop him. Then Billy Gunn shows up. They both take Brandon Cutler out. He gets smacked with the guitar. They uncuff Swerve. Swerve and Prince Nana gave Swerve some, it looked like wire cutters. It didn't look like something that would actually cut the cage, but they cut the cage. It seemed like that too big of the cage was cut for that amount of time. I could be wrong, but he gets in through cutting the cage. After that, the Elite had a box that contained staple guns. That was one of the briefcase gimmicks. And they all stapled Swerve, which he was able to turn it around and start stapling them. Hangman accidentally took out Jack Perry. And then we saw they climb up the cage. Through the commercial break, I guess they got out. Bowens went through a stack of tables off the top of the cage. Darby Allin and Mark Briscoe both did table spots to Matt Jackson and Jack Perry. Darby, for his, scaled the spine of the cage, I guess you could call it, perhaps. And did a coffin drop off of that. I thought that was pretty cool. The Elite then all got cuffed to the cage, to the ropes. And Darby busted out a can of gasoline, which he poured on Jack Perry. He wanted a TNT Championship match, which Matt Jackson agreed for All In. He gave him the match on behalf of Jack Perry, just so he wouldn't light him on fire. And Darby Allin was like, I'm not done. You need to say I quit. So Matt Jackson quit, and the Elite lost, just so Darby Allin wouldn't light him on fire. So it seemed like Darby was the star of that match instead of the world champion. Swerve, I feel like, was a complete afterthought this match. So that, again, I don't think makes the championship look good. I think this year's Blood and Guts was much better than last year's, but I hope they either don't do it again next year or it's just women. There has to be a big change. You can't keep doing this match. It's like almost not fresh. So that's Dynamite. Hey, Brandon. Got any shout-outs?
Hi, this is Casey Kasem, and up next on the American Top 40, Brandon shout-outs.
The first shout-out goes to My Spy, The Eternal City, which is now out on Amazon Prime. It's the sequel to the 2020 comedy spy film of the same name, My Spy, not the Eternal City part, but it stars Batista. Chloe Coleman stars in it as well. Kristen Schaal and Ken Jeong all reprise their roles. Anna Faris is in this one. Flula Borg. Craig Robinson is also in this film. But basically, Batista's character has to chaperone a school trip to Italy. And then a terrorist plot unfolds. And ultimately, I enjoy this movie. I think Batista, I can't say this enough, Batista is great in these comedic roles.
Oh, yeah. He does such an amazing role with all of those. They had one of the actors of this movie on one of the TV shows, the German guy.
Flula.
Yeah, and it's pretty funny, but I thought it was hilarious because this guy in the movie is like a straight up, I don't know, assassin maybe?
Yeah. Terrorist.
But apparently he's a comic.
Yeah. You never seen him? He was in, I think he was in Pitch Perfect.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he was in Pitch Perfect. And he used to do...
I definitely want to see it, plus Drew McIntyre, I mean.
Drew McIntyre?
Yeah, apparently Drew McIntyre's in this movie, I think.
Drew McIntyre is not in this movie.
No?
That's a different movie.
Did he just like input him? I saw him tweet about it.
That's a different movie.
Oh. I thought that was the Batista movie.
No, I think it is. There is a Batista movie, but it's a different Batista movie.
Different Batista's nonstop.
Yeah, I part of me wants to say Titus O'Neil is also in that movie, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay. But yeah, this movie, My Spy, The Eternal City.
Do his hand movement too when I did that.
It's just Batista. There's no McIntyre. There's no Titus O'Neil. It's on Amazon Prime. I'd say 100% check it out. Also, Batista was on Fallon, and he said that Chloe was going around telling people. I think the story was saying like she was going around telling people that he has a Winnie the Pooh tattoo. So he ended up actually getting a Winnie the Pooh tattoo for her. So now Batista has a Winnie the Pooh tattoo on one of his calves.
That's funny.
My next shout out goes to Mark Henry's A&E biography. I thought it was so good. I'm just such a fan of Mark Henry, and I'm glad to watch whatever new content they put out to spotlight Mark Henry. This footage, I am like 99% sure all 100% new. Because WWE did a documentary a few years ago, but I know that all the Mark Henry footage is new because in that other documentary, he's got the full black beard. Under the McMahon era, They didn't let you have the gray in your beard. Here, he's got the gray in his beard. And they also covered AEW a little bit, which I was surprised at. So, highly recommend watching this. I still hope I get to meet Mark Henry someday. But
he is your relative, according to Fit Finley.
No, that wasn't according to Fit Finley.
What did he say?
He didn't. He said, I don't know. I think he said, you look like you could be Sheamus's brother. And I say, a lot of people say Mark Henry. And he laughed and he goes, a bit different.
Oh, that's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But my last shout out goes to Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I finally saw it. It's out on Netflix now. And I enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife. This is the sequel to that. Some of it was hokey, but I feel like that's the MO of Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
All in all, the only thing I wish was different from this movie was Rick Moranis wasn't in it. And I'm sure everybody would have wished or does wish that Rick would have been in it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most unfortunate part of this movie. So I hope there's a third one. I feel like there's going to be.
Isn't this the third one?
No, this is the second one. In this series, at least.
What's Afterlife?
Afterlife was the brand new one, but I guess you could say a spin-off.
Maybe
it's more so a continuation. Paul Rudd's in it.
Maybe because I'm considering the one with like the all-female class as like number 1 for the reboots.
No, that's not this. That movie has no correlation to this because the original Ghostbusters played different roles in that movie. They're actually the Ghostbusters in this.
True. Very true. Very true.
So, well, I mean, technically they're the Ghostbusters, but
yeah.
I highly recommend you check that movie out on Netflix. Those are my shout outs. Now it's time for our
Mark Out Moment of the Week.
That is right, our Mark Out Moment of the Week. I don't think it's a mark out moment, but I feel like I could file it under mark out moment. I finally tried Prime for the first time this week.
And how is it?
So Costco was selling a multi-flavored pack. One's lemonade, one's strawberry watermelon, and one is the ice pop, which is literally the bomb pop ice pop flavor. They're all made with coconut water, which I didn't realize that, and I thought I wouldn't like coconut water. I've never actually had straight up coconut water, but the flavors are so spot on to what they are that it's like crazy. And I really, really don't like drinks like Gatorade and Powerade, so I was very skeptical about Prime. But I saw they had it on sale at Costco, and I went and picked it up. It tastes nothing like those drinks. This is something I'd be completely fine with drinking over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could actually taste the watermelon. I could actually taste the strawberry.
Huh.
I could actually taste, what is it, cherry, lime, and blue raspberry for the bomb pop. It's like so spot on. It's crazy that it seems like you're actually eating whatever you're drinking.
Interesting. I am going to go with the Drew McIntyre picture tweet.
Jungle Boy.
With
which is now deleted, by the way.
Yeah, he deleted it, but he posted it saying something Crimea River.
I wonder who gave him this. Did he get a stern talking to or what?
No.
He said he said it's a real photo, Crimea River.
Cryusa River.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, definitely part of the gimmick with the takedown. And then the other one that he did was he included CM Punk's t-shirt, the new one that says Clobber McIntyre Punk. And then it says, in the quote, "I ain't ever had to put another man's name on a shirt to sell it." And then Drew McIntyre included that saying, Asian as well as, "Hey, Colt Cabana, how you doing?"
Which I do think it was pointed out that CM Punk already had somebody else's name on a shirt before, but I don't remember. It might have been Cena or something. I don't remember who.
I don't remember who, but he has. Also, the figures from Comic-Con.
You know, I want to end with that, to be on a positive note, because I have one that I don't consider a mark-out moment, but I also could file it under this.
So let's end with that. I mean, that great Muda.
No, I don't want to end. I want to end with that. Hold on. Give me a second here. I want to go to a negative one first. Because Pat McAfee revealed that the next DLC pack for 2K24 that was supposed to be out this week, it's him and his friends from his show. He revealed that it wouldn't be out this week as scheduled. And then 2K posted a tweet saying DLC 3 update tomorrow. Stay tuned. And some people thought maybe this means that we're actually getting more than just these people. Like, who the hell are these people? And some people even thought maybe somehow the Wyatt Six were getting added because they've been associated with Pat McAfee. Others figured that they'd actually announce real wrestlers that would also be included in this pack. But fast forward to the next day when they just announced that it'll be coming out next week, and you can use a football as a weapon. So that, I think, rightfully pissed everybody off. McAfee spoke about it on his show, and one of the guys on the show, whether it was in gimmick or not, he said people are pissed off because they want to play as some losers that no one's ever heard of from NXT and nobody wants to play as them or something like that. And 2K responded with laughing emojis, which pissed people off. They ended up deleting that. And they say that nobody in this pack is taking someone else's spot, but it just makes no sense. It's been 5 DLC packs, I think, for 3 games now. And you'll have some people spin it as like, this is a new moves pack, basically. But based off what's been shown, I wouldn't even say that there's enough moves to constitute calling this a new moves pack. And I don't know how they didn't think that this pack would have really pissed people off. Because if you're buying a deluxe copy or something, you're already paying for the DLC. So, and Pat McAfee said something like, oh, people don't want to play as me or whatever, something like that. But that's not the case. People wanted Pat in the game. Pat should have been in the game last year. He was supposed to be in the game last year. Pat shouldn't have been DLC for this game. So I feel like 2K continues to slap people in their face when it's not necessary. So that's my rant about 2K24. On that positive thing, like I was saying before, with the San Diego Comic-Con showing a bunch of new figures off before Comic-Con. I forgot to mention, I think it was last week, they showed off the 3-pack for Roman Reigns and the Wild Samoans, depicting that moment from Hell in a Cell 2020, which the Wild Samoans are also a 2-in-1 figure, which they have their gear underneath. So I think that's one of the coolest sets that Mattel's ever released. But as far as San Diego Comic-Con goes, they showed off, I mean, such a niche figure. Justin Hawk Bradshaw's getting a figure. I thought that was unexpected and cool to see. They're doing a 3-pack of Evolution when they turned on Randy Orton. They showed off the final boss versions of, well, I guess technically there's 2 different ones, but The Rock, Lexus King, and Brian Pillman are both going to be in the same set together, which I think is pretty cool. They showed off the scans of, or the renders, I guess, the computer-generated renders. I forget what those are actually called. Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu and Ethan Page. I was not expecting to see those 3 at all. So I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know where Tonga Loa is at in as far as a release like that. They showed off a Fatu from 1995, like the Make a Difference gimmick, which is, again, super niche. Like, do you even remember Rikishi like that? When he wore, like, all the colorful outfits and he wanted, like, the no gun violence and everything?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
But, yeah.
I remember that version of him. I remember him from going into Survivor Series with that gimmick.
Yeah. They also showed off
he got shot.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but they showed off a Smoking Guns Billy Gunn, which is going to be made. I feel like you got to sign Bart Gunn to complete the set. So that sucks. But my big pops for this, like you mentioned, they showed off the 2 WCW Great Mutas, which we already knew we were getting. They showed off a Pro Wrestling Noah Great Muta, where he's in the gear in his last, his not last match, but his match against Nakamura. That was, I was not expecting to see that at all. So, like, to get an old man Muta figure like that, I thought that was really cool. Yeah, and then they showed off the Monday Night Wars series with it's Kane, a WCW British Bulldog, Booker T with a Chase Booker T. He's in the long flame tights. And then Hack is in the set also, which again, when they started making those Sandman figures, I wondered if maybe they would release a hardcore Hack. because it's such like a niche figure. But now we know the answer is yes. And the biggest mark out moment from that set is a Build-A-Figure that is Golga. For over 2 decades, I've waited for a Golga figure. I don't know how we didn't have a Bone Cruncher.
It just doesn't have his Cartman shirt.
Which, obviously, it would have been so much cooler if Mattel had the South Park license. Because then he could actually come with a South Park shirt and, like, a toy accessory of Cartman.
Mm-hmm.
But, it is a plain shirt, but the fact that Golga is being released, it sucks that it's a Build-A-Figure because there's no box to that. You got to buy the whole set in order to get him. But I just think that's really cool. And fingers crossed, maybe it'll lead to Golga and the Oddities or something being in 2K25. I feel like Earthquake and Typhoon should always be in the video games, but for whatever reason, they haven't been included in a bit. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really cool, and they just keep on. There was also, I guess I should mention, there was an AEW figure that they showed off, was a Black Machismo, which I think might be one of the best looking AEW figures that they've ever put out, if it ends up looking the way it looks. So, but that's a positive way to end the mark out moments, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I'd say so. Take it home.
That was episode 703. I almost said 603, by the way. So, thank you.
It's also cool that Lexus King and Pillman are both in the same set.
Yeah, what did you just hear me say that like 9 minutes ago at this point?
No, just chiming in as well.
But yeah, so
I think that's really cool.
So check us out on Twitter at Markin Out, at BTTG161 on all platforms. Chris Sweendog on Twitter, CM Sweeney85 on Instagram, David PTDPT on all platforms. Facebook.com/MarkinOut, YouTube and Instagram at MarkinOut, or not MarkinOut. It's YouTube.com/MarkinOut11. Instagram is MarkinOut11. Follow us on TikTok at MarkinOut. You can check us out, ProWrestlingTees.com/MarkinOut to purchase some merchandise. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Rate, review, and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate that. You can listen to us on markinout.com as well. And we wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. Have a fantastic week.